Many years ago, in a compound where everyone wanted to know everything about you, there lived a woman named Patricia. But everyone just called her Pat the Talker. Because truly, if talking were an Olympic sport, Pat would bring home a gold medal every year. Pat had the kind of mouth that never got tired of talking. It wasn't that she was wicked or rude. No, not at all. In fact, she was very funny, loud, and lively. And she always had something interesting to say. But her biggest weakness was that she did not know where to stop. Even as a child growing up in Memphis, she was known for oversharing. When her father bought a radio, Pat told the whole church that they now had one of those machines rich people use. When her elder brother got malaria, she explained the symptoms loudly at the grocery store until even strangers began recommending herbs. She never knew that some things were meant to stay inside the house. So when she met Robert, the man who would one day become her husband, it was no surprise that the entire street already knew by the second week. Robert was a quiet man. He was very calm and very intentional. He did not talk much, but his actions spoke volumes. When he first met Pat during her NYSC in Oregon, she was shouting at a Uber driver for giving her $10 change instead of $15. Robert stood behind her quietly watching the drama. Then he stepped forward, handed her $5 and said, "No need to fight over what you deserve." That was it. Pat turned around, looked at him, and said, "This one has sense." And from that moment, she decided he was going to be hers. Robert didn't fight it. She cooked for him, washed his clothes, and called his mother to greet her even before they started dating officially. However, Pat did not stop talking. She said everything on her mind. Her dreams, her fears, her circle dates, and even how many boys had toasted her in the university. Robert would just smile and nod. Some days he would say, "Pat, your mouth will put you in trouble one day," but she would laugh it off. Trouble can't catch a woman with a pure heart. They got married much later and moved to a big compound in Los Angeles. It was one of those buildings with 6 flats, a central water tank, a mango tree in the middle, and a landlady living upstairs with 2 wild dogs. Everyone there knew everyone's business. At first, Pat promised she wouldn't mix with compound people, but that promise only lasted for 2 weeks. It did not take long before she became the gist madam of Flat 4B. Her favorite time was evenings after work when all the women would come outside to sit under the mango tree to either peel a goosey, braid children's hair or fry plantain ware. Pat would strike. She would sit down, stretch her legs and begin. One evening as usual, she started with, "Ladies, some of you need to go back to your prayer closet. You see this man I married, Robert, I don't even know if God over answered my prayer or he just wanted to spoil me." Everyone laughed and Mary crossed her legs and said, "This just go sweet." Oh, Zoe, the flashy single girl from Flat 1A giggled and ate her chin-chin. My mama Sandra shook her head and muttered, "Just put small sense in this, your plenty talk." But Pat continued, "Yesterday night, after I finished serving him jollof rice and plantain, Robert came in, dropped a bundle of cash on the table and said, 'Babe, that is your upkeep for this weekend.' Guess how much? $1,000. Zoe guessed. Pat rolled her eyes. $1,500. Just like that, the women exclaimed, "Are you lying? You are lying." Pat laughed out loud, then lowered her voice and said, "That is not even the real gist. Do you people know that this man does not get tired in bed? He would go 5 rounds. Back to back." They all screamed and Auntie Mary, a divorcee, shook her head and said, God, what did I do wrong in my own marriage?" And as they laughed, clapped and shouted, "Go and marry man you marry." Pat continued giving away the secret recipe of her marriage. Every day she would come out and talk about how Robert handled pressure, how he hated lies, how he loved it when she massaged his neck after work, and even how he responded to certain kinds of laundry. She would reveal everything. Nothing missing, nothing reserved. She left nothing to mystery. To her it was all fun, honesty and sisterhood. One evening after Pat had finished her usual bragging session under the tree and Mary drew closer and asked her, "Patricia, no vex. So, but are you not worried that this your stories might give somebody ideas?" Pat laughed and shook her waist. Auntie Mary, you check me out now. Who won't take my man from me? Is it by mouth? Let them try it. Don't worry. Robert is not that type that can be stolen. But Mama Sandra walked away and whispered to herself. Even Samson fell asleep on Delilah's lap. Pat did not hear it. She was still laughing confidently, unknown to her that the present-day Delilah was already doing her calculations. It started like a joke with the casual "good evening, sir." Then it migrated to an extra sway of hip and one pretend cough that just happened to reveal cleavage. And that was how Zoe, the compound small-waist, wig-wearing, fake eyelash-fluttering seduction specialist, began her mission to take over. At first, she didn't take Pat's story seriously. She thought Pat was exaggerating, as usual, and just trying to make her marriage sound like a fairy tale. But the day Robert drove into the compound in his clean white Corolla, came down, opened the gate himself, and then went around to open the passenger door for Pat, Zoe's eyes changed. She stood by her window, peeping from behind her curtain, watching Pat step out of the car with pride. With her handbag slung over her shoulder as if she was one of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Robert gently placed his palm on her back and said, "Don't forget to drink the warm water before sleeping." "Okay." Zoe's mouth opened wide in shock. She did not even realize when she said to herself, "This man is rare." That night, she called Auntie Mary. She whispered like someone planning a robbery. "Ma, I don't know what is inside this Robert. But the way that man behaves is too sweet. Is it truly that nice, or Pat is just lying?" And Mary exhaled like someone who had been waiting for that question. "My dear, men like that are not common again. And it pains me that it is Pat who got him." Zoe laughed. "Why does it pain you?" And Mary paused and then explained, "Because Pat does not know how to guard a good thing. She talks too much. She exposes too much. She thinks everybody is happy for her. Meanwhile, wolves are clapping while sharpening their teeth." Zoe nodded slowly. So if someone were to collect him, it wouldn't even be that hard." Auntie Mary smiled darkly. "My dear, you are smart. I like that." And that was how the Operation Takeover started. Zoe stopped going out in her usual bonnets and mismatched skirt and blouse. Instead, every morning when Robert left for work, she just happened to be sweeping the front of her flat in fitted leggings and a tank top, singing "Watermelon Sugar" by Harry Styles with a soft voice and deliberate, slow-motion moves. She would wave and say, "Good morning, sir," with the kind of smile that can fry eggs. Robert, being the respectful man he was, would just nod and say "morning" without looking twice. But Zoe was patient. One Saturday morning, Pat was trying to hang clothes and cook at the same time. Zoe offered to help. "Auntie Patricia, let me rinse this clothes for you. I'm not doing anything now." Pat was tired, so she agreed. Zoe rinsed the clothes and pegged them with color-coordinated pegs. Then she brought out her own special soap and re-washed Robert's singlets. "Hope you don't mind," she asked innocently. Pat laughed. "I beg. Help me wash him well. He sweated like a goat this week." Zoe smiled. "No wala, but his chest must be fine." "No, I can imagine how it looks in this white singlet." Zoe, you know well, wash the singlets." "I beg." Of course, Zoe washed the singlets very well. But she even took it further from there. She remembered everything Pat had ever said under the mango tree, that Robert loved coconut rice, that he hated strong perfume, that he did not like loud women, and that he responded well to forehead kisses. Zoe memorized everything and got ready to put them in action. One day when Pat traveled for her cousin's introduction in Boston, Zoe struck. She cooked and tied a wrapper as if she was just casually at home, but with nothing underneath. Then she knocked at Robert's door to return a charger she borrowed from Pat. Robert, who was distracted by work emails, didn't look up before saying "coming." Zoe entered, dropped the charger, and turned. Suddenly, her wrapper fell. Robert looked up and froze. "What are you doing?" Zoe walked closer. "Don't be afraid. It's just skin. Pat told us you like skin." Robert stood up angrily. "Zoe, are you mad? What rubbish is this?" Zoe smiled, picked her wrapper, and said, "Don't worry. I'll be back. Men like you are rare, but your wife talks too much." With that, she left. Robert sat back down, disturbed and confused. Zoe's next step was to apply pressure until the target suffocates. So she did not stop. She only changed tactics and went subtle. There would be no more seduction. She became gentle, respectful, and quiet. When Robert came out to wash his car, she greeted him softly. When he looked troubled, she asked if he was okay, like someone who cared. And slowly she began to convince Robert that his wife had made him a public property. One evening, Robert sat alone in his living room scrolling through old Facebook posts when he saw a comment Pat had left on a post months ago. "I have the sweetest man. 5 rounds and he still goes to work by 7 a.m. People had liked the post. Zoe had laughed under the comments and typed, "Send him my way. Just joke." Robert read it again and something sank inside him. Send him my way. And Pat had even laughed at the comment too. She laughed at the enemy's invitation. That night, Robert didn't sleep. Zoe's words rang in his ears over and over again. "She talked too much. Men like you deserve privacy." Unfortunately, the bite came faster than expected. Even though Robert didn't cheat that night, something in his heart shifted and he began to pull back from Pat. The hugs were brief and the jokes became dry. Well, Pat did not even notice. She was still under the mango tree bragging. "This my husband, if you see what he did to me on Sunday afternoon." "Chai Zoe, don't worry. Your own time will come. And Mary, now prayer you need." And in the corner, and Mary just crossed her legs, sipped her Zobo and said amen. But her amen was not prayer. It was a confirmation, because she knew Zoe had now entered the heart of the man Pat had exposed with her own mouth. By the time Pat noticed the change in Robert, it was already too late. He had stopped picking her from work and was always given the excuse that there was traffic. Then he started eating less of her food, claiming he had already eaten at the office or he wasn't feeling hungry. And then one day when she touched his chest and whispered as usual, "My sugar daddy, let's go in," he looked at her as if she was forcing him. Pat frowned. "Robert, are you okay?" "I am fine," he said. But he wasn't. Something had changed. It was as if someone took the old Robert and replaced him with a distant and moody stranger who was physically present but emotionally elsewhere. He now stayed on his phone all night, claiming it was emails, and he would always put his screen face down whenever Pat walked in. She tried to pray. She even fasted one day and poured anointing oil on his shoes. But nothing changed. Instead, it got worse. Then one day reality slapped her in the face. Pat was in front of Mama Ada's shop buying tomatoes when she overheard 2 women chatting near the pepper stand. One of them said, "You know, say that Zoe girl done hook one correct man." The other replied, "Who care? She done fish well. I even said the man married man, but they plan to leave the wife because her own done tire." Pat's heart jumped. Not because she suspected Robert. No, that thought didn't come immediately. But because how could such an update about Zoe having a man pass her without hearing? She turned and joked with the women. "I beg, which man Zoe hook?" Again. The one holding Pepper looked at her up and down and stammered. "Ah, you never hear. No, mind me. I just they talk anyhow." Pat smiled, but inside her chest she was restless. She walked home faster than usual. Her hands were shaking as she opened the gates. She did not even greet Mama Sandra properly. She just muttered good evening and rushed inside. Robert wasn't home. She waited for him, but by 9 p.m. there was still no sign of him. Then by 9:30, he walked in with his shirt untucked, smelling of female perfume. Pat's heart beat like a drum. "Where are you coming from?" "From work." "Robert, which work smells like Victoria's Secret perfume?" Robert turned slowly and looked at her. "You see, that is the problem. You want to police my scent. After you have turned our whole marriage into comedy skits under a mango tree." Pat's mouth opened. "What? You think I don't know?" I see the way people look at me when I walk past the compound. As if I am their business. They already know how I perform in bed and how much I give you for upkeep. Do you know how embarrassing that is, Pat? You have made me a story. Pat's voice cracked. But Robert, I was only just proud of you. What's wrong with sharing good news? Robert laughed a cold, bitter laughter. Really? Continue giving them the instruction manual on how to replace you. Those words hit her like a slap. She tried to hold him but he shrugged her off. I need space, and then he walked into the bedroom. Pat slumped on the sofa speechless. Her whole body was shaking. The next day she came out looking pale. She did not go under the mango tree. Instead, she sat on the corridor like someone whose spirit was missing. Zoe walked past with a loud good morning and sipped her yogurt. Pat couldn't breathe. That evening, she knocked on Auntie Mary's door. Mary. Can I talk to you? Auntie Mary, the master manipulator, opened the door wide and acted shocked. Ah. What is it? Why is your face like this? Pat broke down in tears. It's Zoe. It's Robert. I think something is going on between them. I don't have proof yet, but everything in my heart is shouting, and Mary gave her the performance of her life. She acted surprised, hugged her and offered a glass of chilled juice. Then she said, you know I warned you before. I told you now, but you were busy entertaining us with stories instead of guarding your marriage. Pat wiped her tears. I didn't know. I didn't think you didn't think anyone would use your own words against you. Well, Zoe has been studying your marriage as if it is a course. She knows what Robert likes because you told us. Pat looked down. In shame. Is it too late to fix it? She asked in a broken voice, and Mary paused and said, you can try, but if Robert has truly tasted betrayal and likes the attention Zoe gives him, it will take more than an apology to bring him back. You have to become what you were before you started performing. Later that night, Pat tiptoed into the bedroom. Robert was lying on the bed with his eyes closed. She lay beside him, placed her hand on his chest, and said, I'm sorry. He did not move. Tears rolled from her eyes. I miss you, Robert. I miss us. I miss the man who used to tickle me until I laughed like a goat. I miss the way you used to wake me up with kisses on the forehead. I miss our private jokes. I miss the peace. Still, he said nothing. She turned her face to the wall and cried into her pillow. She did not sleep well that night. She kept tossing, praying, and thinking. By 4 a.m., she sat up and said to herself, Robert is still my husband. I will fight for him. I will not allow one Jezebel with hip enlargement and artificial eyelashes to scatter my home. So she got up, entered the kitchen, and cooked Robert's favorite coconut rice, just like she used to in their early years. She ironed his clothes and placed a love note under his phone. When Robert came out that morning looking dull and uninterested, she smiled and kissed his cheek, pretending not to see how he frowned. Baby, your food is in the flask. Drive safely. Okay. He nodded slowly, thanks, and left. He did not even smile or say, I love you. Just thanks. Later that day, Pat went to meet Mother Agnes, one of their church mothers who lived in their estate. Mother Agnes, please help me. Someone is dragging my husband with me. And the annoying part is that I gave her the recipe to do so. Mother Agnes looked at her and said, then you must change the flavor. Stop being what everyone expects. Go silent and strategic. War is not won by shouting. Pat nodded slowly as the words sank in. She was ready. From then on, she stopped bragging and avoided the mango tree. She also started dressing like the woman Robert wanted her to be. The simple, feminine, and graceful woman. She stopped wearing loud makeup, started cooking fresh meals, and prayed beside his pillow at night. But nothing changed. In fact, Robert even grew worse. One evening he came home with a bag of groceries, something he hadn't done in months. Pat saw it and ran out in excitement to welcome him. You bought foodstuffs. Oh, Bobby, let me help you. But he cut her off coldly. I am not staying. I just came to drop my bag. She froze. You are not staying. Then who are the groceries for? He looked at her and muttered. They are for Zoe. She's not feeling well. I just wanted to help. Pat stuttered. You bought groceries for her? Robert shrugged. She's a good person, Pat. She listens and respects me. She doesn't make me feel like a trophy to be displayed under a mango tree. Pat's voice cracked. Robert, we built a life together. We have a marriage. You want to throw all that away for respect? I am not throwing anything away, he said and walked past her. I just need peace. Pat stood there holding the plastic bag of onions that fell from his car. She was shaking. By now, the neighbors had begun to gossip and Zoe now walked boldly around the compound, wearing Robert's jacket like a crown. She even started greeting him loudly from her corridor as if she was marking her territory. Ah, Uncle Bobby, welcome. I left that pepper soup for you on the table. Oh. And Robert would smile and divert to her room. Pat saw all the things and died each time. She knew she couldn't fight Zoe as it would make the whole thing worse. In fact, she did not have any business confronting Zoe. However, she refused to give up. She decided to change strategy. One Saturday morning, she waited for Robert outside the church where he volunteered once a month. When he came out, she walked up to him. Robert, can we talk? He hesitated. She smiled and continued. Just 10 minutes, please. They sat on a church bench under a tree. Do you still love me? She asked. He did not answer. Robert, I know I talk too much. I know I was careless with our love. I treated you like a gist for the girls. I was wrong. But is that enough to end our marriage? To replace me with a girl that was listening for how to steal you? Still, he did not speak. She took his hands. I'm sorry. I really am. But don't let Zoe's silence deceive you. She may be quiet, but she's calculating. She doesn't love you, Robert. She only loves the idea of taking what I have. Robert pulled his hand away and stood up. Then he said, right now, Pat, it is not about who is right. It is about who makes me feel safe. I don't feel safe with you anymore. After that, he walked away. Pat sat there frozen. She looked around the empty church compound and shook her head. Ah, my mouth. My mouth has killed me. 3 days later, someone knocked at Pat's door. She opened it only to find Zoe standing there with a smirk. Auntie Patricia, I just wanted to say thank you. Pat frowned. For what? For teaching me how to keep a man. Pat's chest tightened. You are evil. Zoe laughed. No, Auntie. I am just strategic. You gave me the guide. I just followed it. And she walked away like a peacock. Pat slammed the door shut and screamed into her hands. But deep down she knew she did not have anyone to blame because it wasn't Zoe's plan that ruined her home. It was her own mouth. By the time Pat entered her 4th month of marital battle, she could no longer cry loudly and she could no longer explain herself to people. Now she was a ghost in her own home, moving quietly and doing what needed to be done, but dying inside. One piece at a time. Meanwhile, Zoe was winning and she was unapologetic about it. However, what broke Pat wasn't Zoe, it was Robert. One Tuesday evening while Pat was making dinner, she overheard Robert on the phone in the bedroom. His voice was soft and romantic, the way it used to be when he spoke to her before. Yes, Zoe. I saw the fabric. You look stunning in gold. Ah. Don't be shy. That's what I like about you. You are gentle. You don't show off. Pat stood still with the kitchen knife in her hand. After a moment, she put the knife down, walked to the living room, and Saturday. He was officially dating someone else in her presence under their roof with no guilt. She thought back to the beginning. How Robert used to call her sunshine with legs. How he used to rush home to be with her. How he used to call her every lunch break. How she was once the woman who made his eyes light up. Now she was invisible. The next day, Pat left the compound without telling anyone where she was going. She simply packed a weekend bag and went to her sister's house across town. When Robert returned from work, he met an empty flat. At first, he assumed she had gone to the market. But as night fell and she still did not return, he became restless. It was the next morning that he found a note on the dining table. The note read, I needed air. I was suffocating watching you fade away from me every single day. I hope you find what you are looking for, Robert. I truly loved you." Robert froze, in shock. Meanwhile, at her sister's house, Pat tried to distract herself. She helped in taking care of her nephews and watched movies. And when her sister Amanda finally sat her down and said, "If you don't stop blaming yourself, you'll fall sick," Pat shook her head. "I gave too much away. My own mouth turned my joy into community information. I didn't know I was giving Zoe a map." Amanda took her hand and said, "Even if you handed her the torch, Robert still chose to follow the path. It is not all your fault." The next day, Pat heard a knock at her sister's house. She opened the door and saw her husband standing there holding her favorite brand of biscuit and a small piece of paper. He looked unsure. "I know I don't deserve a welcome, but I wanted to give you this." She collected the paper and opened it. It was a note, the one she left on the table before leaving. But the husband had written something underneath it. "I have found what I was looking for. It was you all along. I am sorry." Pat stared at him speechless. "I am not asking you to come home," he continued. "I am asking to come home to you wherever that place is now." Pat blinked away the tears. "Are you done with her?" she asked. He nodded completely. "I want peace. I want the woman who made our home a heaven even when she talked too much." Pat smiled slowly and opened the door wider. "Then come in, but this time it is you that will cook." They both laughed and embraced each other because what is love if there is no forgiveness? Thank you for watching the story. Kindly share your thoughts about the story with me in the comment section. What lessons did you learn from this story? Kindly share the story out with your loved ones. Give this story a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you've not done so by now. Until I bring another story your way. Bye.